Welcome to another episode of the HaskinCast Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I have an incredibly special guest doing an incredibly rare and amazing event coming up in just 2 weeks. Actually, it'll be less than 2 weeks from the day this airs. I have here with me the wonderful Laura Pursell. Laura, how are you?
Hey, good. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I am so excited to talk to you about the legacy of your father and this big event that you have coming up in Nashville on June 15th. Is it day, nighttime? What's the time of the show start?
The show starts at 7:30 p.m. We have Charlie McCoy opening for us. He's the very famous harmonica player, member of the Grand Ole Opry, an incredible musician, very, very famous around the country music arena. And I will be taking the stage at 8:30.
Excellent. Are you excited and nervous and scared and just ready to blow up and do it right now?
I'm not nervous because we did a show in LA at the Hard Rock Cafe. So that was sort of our warm up for this one.
Okay.
So as long as I don't get sick or knock on wood, get laryngitis or something tragic, I think it's going to go very, very well. I do. And of course, I've got the last minute, you get kind of tense as it's winding up and you're thinking about, the length of the show and what I'm going to talk about. Is it too much? Is it not enough? Those are the things that I'm stressing out a little bit about.
Sure.
Not the music. It's really it's the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to cover a lot of ground, and I don't want people to start shifting in their seats, which I hope. I don't think they will. But
I kind of feel like anybody that would show up for this event would be just very engaged the whole time. I mean, you get to a point where you physically just have to move around a little bit. If it's hitting the 2-hour mark, you're going to shift in your seat a little.
And I'm so attuned to it because as a singer, you see everybody out there, and I'm so sensitive to it. And I notice when people start, they just start moving around, right? And I'm okay, gotta wind it up, gotta get going.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give you a recommendation. Feel free to take it or leave it. But if you have a Whole Foods in your area, or you can get this on Amazon, they sell the 365 company, Amazon's their product company. They have a wonderful high potency powdered vitamin C. And I live in Vegas, and I go walk the strip at least once a week for the exercise and just to, kind of get out of the house. As soon as I come home, and all through COVID, I did this, never got it once. I just have a cup of the vitamin C, a quarter teaspoon, and just some hot water. And there you go. It's a little bit bitter.
That's fine. I guess that's better than Emergen-C. I have a box of Emergen-C.
That's always a good backup. Yeah. But this is just, it's just high potency. I think it's 1,200 milligram, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah. Good idea. Thank you. Because I'm really kind of paranoid the last couple of weeks, because when I catch things going around, I catch it and I catch it bad. And I don't.
Right. Well, and you're interacting with people that you probably don't interact with on the norm, and they've got kids in school or whatever. I mean, it never hurts.
You should mention that I'm a figure skating instructor. That's my day job.
Oh wow!
No, I'm not kidding. I work for the Scott Hamilton Skating Academy, and there are a lot of kids in the summer programs, and we have a camp coming up next week. And so I'm just thinking, okay, I need to keep my distance from people, not go in the locker room, just kind of put an invisible shield around myself. Maybe I should wear a mask. I hate that, but
it's so well, yeah, but you're breathing heavy when you're skating, and even as an instructor, I'm sure you are. So it's kind of tough. But if you do the vitamin C, there's a good chance that'll just kill anything that comes your way.
Good to know. Good to know.
I'm touching elevator buttons and escalator handrails with 100,000 other people that are visiting Vegas. So
you don't think about it. I mean, since COVID, of course, we think about it a lot more.
Yeah.
But I, all the time, I'm with people, interacting with people constantly.
Mm-hmm. And I want to circle back to the figure skating. I randomly just listened to an interview with Nancy Kerrigan last week, who was on another podcast that I listened to. Yeah. But let's get back to the concert. So let's talk about first the content that we're looking at. I mean, we're going to be hearing some hits. What are a couple of songs that you can tease that we're going to hear?
Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to be hearing the Patsy Cline hit, one of the very last songs that she recorded, called Sweet Dreams.
Which beautiful song.
Dad was on that recording in 1963, and she passed away exactly 1 month after that recording.
Wow.
Isn't that, I just realized that when I was doing some research. They recorded it on February 5th, 1963, and her plane went down on March 5th of that year. So Dad rearranged the tune for me. And I said, at the time, I said, we have to make it different. It needs to, I don't want to have the strings at the beginning or so. That's Patsy Cline. I said, we have to do something completely different. And so he did. And we recorded that in 2019 when he was still with us. And that's one of the songs that we will be performing.
That is going to be a treat, I can guarantee. Well, it's interesting. If you're doing a show and doing a cover of someone else's song, you could do that traditional performance if you wanted to, and that would be perfectly acceptable. But if you're going to record it, you kind of want to do a little something to make it your own. What's the point of just copying, duplicating what they did, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is why it took me years to even talk myself into singing that song, because that is such a Patsy Cline song. And when you sing it, you really have to send it. You just have to send it. It can't be sweet dreams of you. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to sing it. It's a big song. And hopefully when people hear it, they will hear the difference. I can't even compare myself to Patsy Cline. She's only the best singer in the planet.
But it's not, I don't think it's about comparing as much as it is just being someone who's delivering a beautiful performance of a song that she happened to do.
Absolutely. It's a song about losing somebody and not being able to shake the memory and having sweet dreams about that person, even though they have rebuffed you and left you, and that was what I was thinking when I recorded it.
And who can't identify with that subject matter at some point or other in their life?
Yeah, that's right.
And I found too that it doesn't even have to be about a person. It could be about an animal or a friendship or just something that was in your life that you loved, a job, an experience. You can relate it to anything, really.
Absolutely. Those feelings are all, they're just as strong, And as an actor and as a singer, you can tap into any of those things. You could be talking about, losing an acquaintance, a friend. Right. But you can use that as a springboard to jump into those other that intensity of feeling, which you need for this kind of a song.
You don't have to answer this because this might be a little too personal, but since you mentioned that, I'm kind of curious. When you're about to sing a song like this, whether it's in the studio or live performance, do you find that you have to get in a headspace to do it, or does the music kind of carry you into being where you need to be?
Both. Absolutely both. I absolutely have a very specific person in mind when I sing that song, and the music helps elevate those emotions. Yeah. You just trust it. You just use that specific person, and I will never say who it is.
Sure.
And the music, the arrangement just lifts all of that out of you, and you just follow it. You just follow it. You don't. And I don't have to go back to that original starting point. At that point, I'm in, and I follow the music. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. When I used to write songs about people, and I don't so much anymore, but I found that was pretty much the case. I would just, in the beginning, you kind of have to run your mind through all those moments that get you, and the more you're involved with it, the less you have to do that. You kind of just jump in because you get those triggers, right?
Yeah, you do, and your brain has a way of memorizing the circuitry. It's all there for you.
Right.
It all falls into place.
Now, you've got quite a stage set up here. Who are we going to see as far as instrumentalists? Who's supporting you?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, on guitar, we have Pat Bergeson, very, very well-known guitar player in town. He's recorded with everybody. We have Jim Ferguson on bass, Bob Mader on drums. We have Jason Coleman on piano. He's filling my dad's shoes, which are some pretty big shoes to fill. Jason Coleman's grandfather was Floyd Kramer, the one and only Floyd Kramer.
Wow.
And Floyd and my dad, of course, knew each other very well. and shared sessions. Dad was on Sweet Dreams playing vibes, and Floyd Kramer was on piano. And
Amazing.
yeah, so Dad always felt like, Dad was not a native Nashvilleian. He came from California. So he felt like he was never part of the Good Old Boy Network. And Floyd Kramer got all the sessions. He got all the plum sessions. And when Floyd wasn't available, they'd call my dad for a while. And Dad was did not feel great about that. And they'd say, give us that Floyd lick. And he'd say, well, if you want a Floyd lick, go hire Floyd. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. But it is hard to break into communities like that because they're very tight knit,
Tell me about
you're in the family until you're not in the family until you're in the family. And once you're in the family, it's different.
Boy,
that's a tough nut to crack.
Dad always said that. And, I always thought, he's just exaggerating. Dad is really, he just, poor me, because he was very successful, but he always felt like he wasn't accepted by the establishment, partly because he was educated at Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. He had a doctorate. He could read, he like a monster. He could play any genre. He's classically trained. And he comes into Nashville with guys, a lot of whom could not read. And they had the number system, for writing and recording. And I think he probably had a little bit of a superiority complex. So I thought, well, I don't know how true that is. Well, after Dad died and I was stuck in Nashville, which is where I still am, by the way. And I love Nashville, but Nashville has changed. And I kept thinking doors are just going to open for me left and right because of who my dad was. People are going to just embrace me with open arms, especially the jazz world. And boy, did no. It is truly starting all over again. And that was a bitter pill to swallow.
But in a way, isn't that kind of cool, though, because you get to prove yourself and earn this on your own?
I have. Yes, I have. I've been sitting in at jazz jams. I've been going to the jam sessions. I've been networking and meeting people. And, many of them do not know who my father was. And they're wow, could you come back? Can I work with you? Can I write with you? Can I write for you? So I feel kind of validated about that. But I thought at my age, it's just so hard to start over because I did all this in LA. I just start all over again. But at least now I know my stuff, right? Like now I feel I'm pretty confident with what I know. I know what I know. So I just have to meet people, but they're not going to come knocking on your door.
No, but I've never been to Nashville, but from what I understand, there is a lot of just live performance all the time. And you can get in there and jump in. And that's really how you're going to meet people is just by getting in and doing it.
And people guard their gigs. They want their gigs. People who have regular gigs, they're going to be, they've got their peeps. They've got people that they work with. And, it's, I'm not going to say it's hard because there are a lot of venues and you can always create more venues. There are more opportunities for live music here than I ever had in LA.
Sure. Yeah. It seems like everywhere else, it's really kind of, dwindling down to just a very few places. So many places are using DJs and automated music. And
and a lot of people don't want to go out, they don't, but that's not the case here. There's when you land in the airport, they have live music.
Yeah, it's one of the most musical towns in the entire world.
It is. And it's not just country. There's jazz, there's blues, rock everywhere. It's you can't escape it. So that's why all the good guitar players are here. You throw a dime, you land on one.
Right. Yeah.
Amazing musicians.
Well, I know that's right. I know that's one of the things that Deep Purple loved about recording their last couple of albums there is because after they were done with their day, then they could just go out and hear all kinds of different, live music. They were jumping in on jam sessions and, I can't imagine living there and just having a drink at a club and some, megastar walks in and just starts playing casually with everyone else. And I bet that happens a lot.
It does. I was at a show for Beth Nielsen Chapman, the great songwriter, at the Franklin Theater, and a friend of mine is her daughter-in-law. We skate together. We actually figure skate together. And I went to this show, and stepped to the side and said, "Oh, I want to bring up my friend Rodney Crowell." And Rodney Crowell, and Rodney Crowell was sitting right in front of me. I didn't even know who he was, and he got up and joined her on stage. And I don't know if you know who Rodney Crowell is, but he is a prolific songwriter. I just adore. I love Rodney Crowell. I love his writing. He was married to Roseanne Cash for a while at New Jersey. He's been around forever. But that's the kind of town it is. You just never know who's going to step up on that stage.
Right. And I would imagine just being in that atmosphere is so energizing as a musician. Just that constant creativity and performance around you has just got to keep you like up on a cloud the whole time.
It is. And everybody wants to play. Everybody wants to sing. Everybody wants to play an instrument. I just joined a ukulele trio.
Wow.
Yes.
That's different.
We're pretty good. Mm-hmm. We do 2 other women, and we do 3-part harmonies. And we've been playing at some senior centers and senior homes, and we're getting ready to do a little festival with 3 songs, and we're planning that. And it's just so fabulous to be able to rehearse once or twice a week with these gals and play our ukuleles and harmonize so beautifully and come up with obscure songs that people haven't heard in a long time. And it's made me a better musician. It's helped me with my harmonizing, my ear. It's great ear training. And it sounds so hokey to say 3 ukuleles, but 2 of them are baritone ukes and mine is a tenor. And so we do have some depth of sound. It doesn't, they actually sound like guitars. The baritone uke sounds like a guitar. So it's really 3 girls on strings. And it's just this, I don't think this would have happened in LA. I'm not bashing LA, but here we just want to make music.
I think, I mean, LA is a little more, I don't want to say focused because I don't want to say that Nashville's not focused, but they're usually a little bit more, this is what we do here.
Well, yeah, it's in film and
I've got to ask you, since you lived in LA and you play the ukulele, have you ever been to the NAMM show?
Oh, many times, yes.
So you've seen the Hall E in the basement is like half ukuleles, and then there's usually like a big wall or 2 in the main floor.
Yes, and when I went, I that was when I first started playing the ukulele, so I wasn't totally into it. But my dear friend Jennifer Lydham she invented some kind of a bass ukulele, and she was there performing, and that was she's. Do you know Jennifer Lydham?
I don't.
She's incredible musician, and anyway, she was at the NAMM show, and she was the star of that hall, Hall E or whatever it was called. And wow. The NAMM show, that's like a whole city when you go down there.
When people ask me what it's like, because I've been a few times, and it's visual and audio overload.
It is overload.
Yeah,
it's enormous.
It is. Even though I didn't get to go this year, but I went last year, and even the scaled down version was still a pretty big event.
The last time I went was right before the pandemic happened. So it was enormous. I think it was 2019. Yeah. It was the 2019 NAMM show. And I went with my drummer, Chris Ross, and our friend, Stephen Blasek. And we had a ball. We saw tons of great live acts, and it was so much fun. I'd love to do that again.
Yeah, it's definitely an event to experience. But let me ask you, when you play an instrument versus when you're singing, do you approach music differently? Like, I find if I'm playing a piano versus a drum set versus a bass guitar, I tend to feel the music differently in my writing. Does that happen to you as well?
I don't know if I've ever really thought about that. I don't know. That's interesting. Do I feel it differently? I'll have to think about that. Well, I'm really just thinking about coordinating everything, because I'm not a fantastic piano player, and I'm not a fantastic uke player, but I play both, and I accompany myself on both, and I've performed with both. And I don't know. I think when I'm singing solo, I'm certainly putting more attention on my tone. Definitely paying more attention to my tone. Yeah. And not necessarily the message of the song, but I'm hearing. I have a critical ear about what I sound like, and I'm definitely trying to calibrate that. Whereas when you're playing an instrument, there's only so much information your brain can process.
Yeah.
So I'm really just thinking what, the chord I'm playing and moving my body with the instrument, because
Right.
I'm very physical.
Mhm.
So when I'm playing the ukulele, it's definitely rhythmic, and my body is more into it. When I'm singing, it's just more,
Sure.
sing it out. Does that answer your question? That's an
It
interesting
does. Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
I never
absolutely.
thought about it till now. So when you're playing an instrument, you're using more of your body. When you're
Right.
singing, you're projecting it out.
Hmm.
So I don't know if there's a difference to the listener, but that's how it feels to me.
Yeah. I know. I think that makes a lot of sense. I just like to ask that question because once I discovered I was doing that, it affects the way I write because I'm looking at a song through a different set of eyes depending on where I'm seated.
Well, in terms of writing,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, you're thinking about your chord progression and where what the tonic is and what you're much more analytical for
Mhm.
sure when you're
Yeah.
playing an instrument. And playing piano is totally different from ukulele. With the
Oh,
piano,
yeah.
so many more options and ideas, and the piano intimidates me because, I mean, my dad played that and he was incredible, and I will never ever catch up to his talent. I will never play like he did. In 5 lifetimes I could never play like he did.
Well,
So
did he?
I'd love if I could just get through it.
Well, yeah. Did he have lessons? Was he trained or did he just kind of pick it up himself?
Oh, he was trained his whole life. He left school. If he left home, he was born in Tulare, California, which is in the San Joaquin Valley. He left home at 13 or 14. He was really young to move away to study. And he went to Berkeley. He trained in Berkeley, and then he went to Eastman School of Music on scholarships. So
Wow.
he was educated on scholarships. He had Russian. Alexander Sklarevsky was his piano teacher, a very famous Russian mentor. And he was a student of Madame Langy, who was a very famous musical theoretician.
Mhm.
And he was very, very educated, extremely, and loved that. He was very intellectual. So everything he did, he always had the wheels turning, and he was having a conversation with dad. It was you couldn't follow him because he was constantly going off on all these different tangents because he had
Yeah.
so many ideas. You
Yeah,
know,
I've worked with people like that, and it's a joy and it's frustrating at the same time because they'll start a sentence on one train of thought and then they'll move it to another train of thought and then another one. And it's genius because their brain is just constantly popping with ideas, but they're hard to follow until you
oh,
learn to follow their threads.
we would do interviews together, to promote the CD before this one, and they would be
Mhm.
joint interview. And we were on television once in LA on KCAL, and Dad started going off on one of his tangents, and I was like, "Oh no!" And I'm like trying to bring him back. I try to guide the conversation back to stay on topic. I don't want
Yeah.
him to come to a commercial just yet, Dad. Just
Right.
please
Yeah.
stay on topic.
So he had been playing for a long time. He played piano. He was a writer. You said he played vibraphone as well. Were there any other instruments that he was really focused on?
Played organ. He was on
Mhm.
I Fall to Pieces. He played organ on that with
Oh,
Patsy.
wow.
Yeah. So organ, vibraphone, and piano. But that's a lot. And he
Yeah.
played piano beginning at the age of 3.
And for any of you horror fans out there that are listening, and I know there are some that listen to this show, I Fall to Pieces was featured heavily in the Ben Affleck horror movie Phantoms. It was kind of the song that the monster kept using to lure them places.
Oh, that's hilarious. I did
Mhm.
not know that. So it's the Patsy Cline
Yeah.
original that
Mhm.
that's
Yeah, it
great.
it didn't sound like a remake to me. It sounded like the original.
It probably
Um,
was.
yeah,
Wow. Well, they paid a pretty penny for those licensing fees, I would
I
imagine.
don't doubt a chunk of the budget went to that.
Yeah.
You know,
That's that's a big ticket.
yes. So I'm really excited. Are you going to be, or did you tape the first one for any potential video release as well?
We did. Yes. I
Good.
hired a videographer, and I have the whole show. And he did a 2-camera setup, and I thought he did a beautiful job. And I'm trying to decide what to do with it. I think we need to edit some of it down for public consumption, because there's a lot of, dead space. And although he did a great job with the edit. And I need about a 3 or 5 minute version that I can, pitch to places, because I would like to do this show again. If there's an audience for it, and if people like the story and they want to celebrate my dad, I would be more than happy to do this show again. So I do have it on video, and we are currently interviewing videographers to videotape the next one in Nashville.
Oh, good.
We don't have anybody pinned down yet. A lot of people are out on the road, but we will get somebody. And I would like to have both shows taped, and maybe I could combine the two. Maybe I could. I mean, I have enough, honestly, with the footage that I have from our recording sessions. I could do a documentary. I could easily. Because,
and you should.
Yeah, I had the wherewithal back in 2019 to hire a film guy to come in. Originally, he was just going to take photos. And I was like, let's get some video, because, Dad's getting up there and you never know. And he's got all these great stories. So he did. And I have it all. And then the videographer died. He wasn't a young guy, but he was sick, and I didn't realize it. I don't think he realized it. He died 6 months later. And thank goodness I got all the footage.
You did? Okay, good.
Tom King. He's such a nice man. I could not believe that. But anyway, I have all that footage, and I could easily put together, I just need somebody to help me edit all of it. There's no shortage of content, for sure.
Right. And I would imagine when you recorded the show, you did, the sound recording was through the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. It was absolutely through the board. Yeah. And we're going to be adding more. Dad had a hit record in 1963 called Our Winter Love, an instrumental that peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. So we're going to be performing that, which we did not do in LA. So there's some special things that people have not heard yet. It's going to be really, really fun.
The thing I love about songs that he's worked on is that they're timeless. I feel there's a lot of songs that just come and go. They're fad oriented. They're just kind of a sign of the times, but there are songs that he was involved with, like I Fall to Pieces, that are just going to go on from generation to generation and
forever. Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash. I mean, that'll be around forever.
Yes. Did he realize the contribution that he's made to the world with his music?
No. Till the day he died, Dad felt like he was not successful.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really a tragedy to me. And my mom said that years ago. She said, your father just feels like he's not successful. He wanted so much more than he was able to get, but he was so revered and appreciated and loved. What is sad is he did not get a lot of that recognition until he had passed away.
Right.
So after he had passed away, all of a sudden, New York Times is knocking on my door. MSNBC wants an interview. And I'm thinking, where were you guys? Where were you 3 years ago when we finished our album together? It was called The Very Last Dance Hall Left in LA. And, we couldn't get arrested. We did one show. We did that one interview in LA when Dad started talking and going off the rails a little bit. But it never really, we didn't get much traction with it. Yeah. And when he died, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, Bill Pursell, he's gone. Oh my God. He's one of the seminal figures in Music Row history. He helped create the Nashville sound.
Right.
He was the one who added all those strings to make all those country hits sound so big. He was there in the studio with Owen Bradley and Harold Bradley and Johnny Cash and Marty Robbins. He was on all of Marty Robbins' recordings. And it's a cruel irony that now people know who he is. And I have worked tirelessly to educate people on who he is, and people are now getting it. Right. And I wish half of that had come to him when he was alive.
Well, thank you for doing that. I mean, it's sad that he didn't get to see that. And I feel like that's a big pet peeve of mine, because that happens with most artists, that they don't get that understanding of the way that people appreciate what they've done until it's too late. It seems like we only care about people when they die or when they're going to court or when they're divorcing somebody, and it's not a celebration of their art. It's a celebration of what's popular in the news today.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it now except try to right that wrong.
Yeah.
But he's no longer with us.
Well, but for the people that are, and I encourage people all the time, send in emails, leave reviews, leave feedback, let people know, share art with people. I don't mean that give them away their art, buy it, but let people know, hey, there's an artist I think you'd really like, or I think you'd really like this song. That's what we need to do, but we need to let the artists know the impact that they've made.
And a few people would email Dad over the years. He would have diehard fans who loved Our Winter Love, the hit from 1963.
Mm-hmm.
And they would send him these long letters about how it meant so much, and they met their love of the love of their lives listening to that song. I had my first kiss in the back seat of my car listening to your record, and
Mm-hmm.
and Dad kind of took, all right, he kind of took it in stride, but he was always looking forward. He was always looking ahead. He was always thinking of the next big project.
Right.
And the last year he was alive, he was looking at a picture of the Earth taken from space. I've never told anybody this before. You're getting an exclusive.
Yay.
He was looking at this, and he showed it to me. He's like, Laura, look at this gorgeous picture of the Earth that was taken from outer space. He said, look how beautiful it is. Look how beautiful our planet is. And so he wanted to write a tone poem or an orchestral piece called Earthrise. That was his title for it, Earthrise. And he jotted down some ideas, and I have them somewhere here on his composition paper. And I don't know what he had in his head, and I'll never know.
Oh.
That was his next big project, was Earthrise.
And that's the thing with any passionate creative, when it's our time, when it's up, there's always going to be something we were in the middle of that didn't get finished. And that's such a hard thing. But do you think
his record? We were halfway through it when he died. Yeah.
Do you think, though, had he gotten the feedback when he was still alive, he would have accepted it? Because it sounds like he maybe was too modest. Yeah. But I'll tell you, the big thing,
never going to be good enough. That's a really good point.
But the big thing for me, like, I don't care about meeting celebrities. I've said this on the show many times. What I care about is meeting people that have had an impact on me, whether it be just music I've enjoyed, music I've learned from, an actor, or anybody, a writer, just anybody who I've grown from their work. Yes. I want to be able to meet and thank those people. And thanks to that last NAMM that you were at, actually, I got to do that with two people that I hadn't met before. So that was a big one for me that year. But I that's more important to me. And I feel like just take 10 seconds and shoot somebody an email, write their publicist, write whoever the contact is on their website, tweet at them, whatever it is, reach out.
Yeah, it's so important. You just had me flash. I flashed on somebody, an actress in LA who is, she's well known in the soap world, but she's not a household name. Her name is Carolyn Hennessy. And I saw her in a show that she did at the Gary Marshall Theater in LA, where she was playing the opera singer. Oh gosh, it was called Masterclass. Mm-hmm. Masterclass. It's a very well-known, really a one-woman show. And she was so amazing. I hate the word amazing because it doesn't mean anything. She was so inspiring and such a force of nature. And I keep seeing her out at these events that Harlan puts together. And I've been meaning to go up to her and tell her how much that performance meant to me. And I haven't done it. And I need to make sure that I do that.
Yeah.
Even if I just reach out to her on Facebook and drop her a line and let her know.
Oh, I'm sure Harlan can connect you.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're friends on Facebook, but I've never really just told her how incredible I think she is. Just this immense, monstrous talent, just monstrous, Yeah. I want that. I want it. That's so inspiring. I want to reach that depth. of communication with people.
I think
Maria
we need to.
Callas, playing Maria Callas.
Oh, Maria Callas, yeah.
Playing
Oh,
Maria Callas. She looks
another
nothing like
legend.
Maria Callas, but boy, she channeled Maria Callas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with art, it's really about some people need that visual connection, but it's really about making you feel like you're experiencing them as an artist.
Oh, and she's not even a singer. She doesn't sing. Didn't matter.
How bold to go for a role like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if someone came to me and said, we want you to play Scott Hamilton, you're out of your freaking mind. I mean, I pulled a groin muscle the first time I tried to ice skate. So it's.
Well, you probably actually could play him. You'd have to have a stunt double to do the skating, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's probably how it would have to work. Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, speaking of skating, I have to ask you, so you grew up in a very musical household, obviously. How did you get into figure skating?
People ask me this all the time.
Yeah.
I think I was so intimidated by my father. He was just he had a larger than life presence in the house. And I took piano lessons, but very quickly realized I can't, I can't do what he does. So I lost interest, tragically. I shouldn't have lost interest. I wish he had made me stick with it, but he didn't. And he signed me and my brother up for hockey lessons downtown Nashville, just looking for something to do. And Dad ended up sponsoring a hockey team. So I ended up playing hockey for this team. I was the only girl on the team. It was horrible. I was a disaster. They benched me all season. I hated it. Hated every minute of it. I didn't want to do it. I was more than happy to be benched. I did not want to play. And my mother promised me that if I stuck out that season, I could figure skate, because I would see the girls come in with their pretty little dresses, and I'd see them gliding across the ice. And of course I had seen Peggy Fleming and Dorothy Hamill, and I thought, that's what I want to be. And so it just, life sort of led me that direction, and I started figure skating.
Well, there's such an elegant beauty to it. It's so, it flows, and it's just, it arcs and it circles, and it's just such a beautiful art that.
And it's a sport.
It is.
Difficult. I mean, it's really, the sport has progressed to the point now where, people are doing quadruple jumps to be competitive. Like, that would never be in my world, but it's a physical endeavor, especially as an adult, and I still skate and I still compete.
I think about how things always have to go next level all the time, right? Like, you take somebody who started skiing and they started the bunny hill, and then they, get on the moguls, and then they get on the junior lift, and all the way up to whatever the big one is. And then, okay, I got to do something more extreme. And then they start going to these, like the Himalayas, and doing these extreme skiing events. And at some point you kind of hit, no pun intended, but a peak of how far you can go. And then you think about a sport like figure skating. Well, we have all the moves that we've known for years, but somebody at some point is going to come up with a new idea. And then everybody's got to do that. And then it's going to escalate. And then more people are going to get creative, and it's going to snowball again. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what has to happen with any sport. It has to progress. If you look at old videos of Peggy Fleming in the Olympics, it's almost laughable. I mean, I could have skated like that back, I mean, it wasn't, and I'm not denigrating Peggy Fleming, but that's where the sport was.
Right.
The sport hadn't, there's so much more technology now, and techniques, and advanced training skills and toolboxes to use. And now we know how to get multiple rotations out of every jump, and back then it was that wasn't the case, but it had to move on. Sure. Now I wonder, and this is a whole other conversation probably, but what comes after quads? What do you call them?
Well, five would be a quintet, right?
I mean, I don't know if I want to see that. I don't know if I ever, that is so hard on a person physically, and on your hips and your joints. I don't know if they do that.
Yeah, if they start saying things like, she stayed in the air for 45 seconds, we know things have gone too far. You've got Chris Angel out there levitating people.
She sprouted wings.
Right. I mean, there has to be like, but also the equipment has gotten better, which has allowed people to do things that they weren't able to do back in Peggy
Oh,
Fleming's
the
day.
skates, there's no comparison. The skates
Yeah.
have so much more ankle support now. I look at the skates that I used to skate in when I was a
Mhm.
teenager. How did I do that? How did
Right.
I get axles in those? They were like slippers. They had no support. And I
Mhm.
did it. I don't know. That's a really good point.
But the
That's a
scary thing is, and you're an instructor, so think about now, and this is why I'm asking you, because you're an instructor. If I'm a 5-year-old child and I want to get into figure skating, I feel like nowadays the expectation of what people can do is so high. And it's kind of like this with a lot of different things now that you're walking into. I'm not having to learn what Peggy Fleming did. I'm having to learn what people are doing now
you need to
as
look at
my basics to compete.
you need to look at Nathan Chen. You need to look at Yuzuru Hanyu. You need to look at the people at Jason Brown. You need to look at the people who are on top right now. Um, yeah. When you say 5 years old, I do teach several 5-year olds, and at 5, really, they don't really know what they want yet. So the main goal with a 5-year old is to keep them interested. You just want them to keep coming back.
Mhm.
It needs to be a source of joy and happiness and fun and
Yeah.
adventure, and by right around 6 or 7, that's where things start to get organized physically, and you can tell who's serious and who's just going to, play around.
I
You
just
can,
feel like there's a stigma for a lot of people that are trying to get into different kinds of crafts, and I would imagine it would be the same in ice skating, where they're looking and trying to perfect what professionals are doing, and they feel like they're expected to be held to those standards when they're really just kind of starting out. And I've seen people quit things because they can't be as
yeah,
good as like somebody coming to a film composer who's doing their first or second film and going, I want a Hans Zimmer score. And I'm holding you to that level because that's where Hollywood is, even though
but
I'm paying you $150 to do this score.
if you're not there on your journey, then you can't, that's not gonna, it's not realistic to think that that could even be a possibility. I mean, these things take years to develop.
Yeah.
Years. And everybody has their own special stamp. I don't know how much you know about skating, but Jason Brown does not have does not have a consistent quad jump, but he's on the world stage because he is such an incredible artist,
Yeah.
because he skates like nobody else.
Mhm.
You know, that's his brand of awesomeness. So
Right.
there's room for everybody. You can create your own niche, right? But
Right.
you have to be willing to have patience and to work at it. It takes years, years and years and years. You
Yeah.
know, I hate it when kids get discouraged or parents get discouraged. It's a shame, because we need better skaters in the U.S. We need to be winning more world medals.
Right. Yeah. Well, we just need people loving art and sharing art with the world and making the
Yes,
world a much better place, because we're
yes,
more focused on art than we are all the politics and all the other things that just keep people upset and angry all the time.
absolutely.
Um,
Because art lasts after we do.
exactly.
Look what
Yeah.
my dad's gone. We're still talking about his art. We're still talking about his music. And there's
Yeah.
more to be found. There's more to be put out there.
Yeah.
And
You're just ramping up.
yeah, no, that's true. I hope when I'm dead that people at least listen to my recordings and it touches them and moves some part of them. And then, maybe it was worth my being here. I made a little footprint.
That's exactly the way I feel about it. Yeah. I mean, certainly your dad, Bill Purcell, did. There's no doubt about the impact that he's made, whether people know he played on I Fall to Pieces or any of the
Right,
other songs or not.
right, exactly,
So,
exactly.
folks, June 15th, Nashville, what's the venue?
It's called Third and Lindsley. It's a very famous club in Nashville. It's a cool place. It's really cool. A lot of tourists go. I would suggest getting tickets online at the Third and Lindsley website. So it's the number 3 RD ampersand Lindsley LindsleY, and it's located at 3rd Street and Lindsley on the corner. And tickets are $15. It's the
Wow.
best $15 you'll ever spend. I think it's a really cheap ticket price.
Yeah, I was honestly expecting $60 to $75 for that.
No.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, if you want a VIP table, which has 4 seats, that's $100, but that's 4 seats, so that's $25 a seat.
Right,
And we
yeah.
have 7 or 8 of those left.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to have the link in the show notes for you guys so that you don't even have to search. It's just going to be right there for you. Laura, thank you so much for everything, for inspiring young minds, for continuing your own journey as a musician, for helping preserve and educate people on your dad's legacy. I mean, you've got so many things that you're doing. That's a lot to juggle.
I just never say no.
There is something to that.
To my detriment sometimes, but I never say no. No.
Well, I am wishing you. Yes, I'm wishing you the absolute best on the 15th. That's in Nashville. So Mark Kameyer, if you're not performing that night, you have something to do. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking some time. I'm sending all the positive vibes out to you guys for a fantastic evening.
Oh, thank you so much.
You bet. Come back and see us again.
I would love to. Just send me an invite and I'll be there. I would love to. I'll tell you all about the show and I'll tell you how it went.
We'll do it for sure. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.